We've been discussing outsourcing contracts and will continue to do so. We will now briefly talk about offshoring. There is often confusion between offshoring and outsourcing. Well, in general terms, offshoring means providing a service from another jurisdiction, dealing with another geographical location. Outsourcing coincides with offshoring when in fact the outsourcer provides part of its services from another location. This is also called as indirect outsourcing. In any event, when you provide services from another geographical location, you would have to take into account certain preliminary commercial issues, including, of course, the choice of location, as well as the business model to be followed. There is no one-size-fits-all. As for the geographical location, it would have to be taken into account the regulatory environment, including the reliability with regards to the protection of certain rights. In the respect, for instance, data protection concerns may come into play and have quite a significant impact on the assessment from both customer and providers. Other issues to be taken into account include labor and operational costs. And within such operational costs, there are certain legal aspects to be taken into account. For instance, the transfer of IP and software licenses that may not always be an easy task depending upon the jurisdiction. Other elements to be taken into account are the cultural fit and the reliability of resources. And amongst the legal and tax issues, it would of course be required to proceed with a thorough assessment of the advantages and disadvantages that can be drawn. For instance, from a tax perspective, there may be, from a supply perspective, some risks of permanent establishment, while on the customer side there may be some issues of transfer pricing or other double taxation issues that should have to be considered. As for the business model, offshoring can be carried out through direct outsourcing, indirect outsourcing through setting up a JV, or through setting up a captive company or branch, or through a BOT, i.e. setting up a business and then proceeding with an agreement that at a later stage such business operation will be transferred back to the customer. As for direct outsourcing, the obvious advantage would be that the costs would be lower in terms of investments from the customer, while on the other hand, there would be a lesser degree of control by the customer over the operations of the supplier. At the same time, in general terms, through direct outsourcing, there is a much higher certainty over the knowledge of the local market by the supplier. Another disadvantage from a customer perspective would be in case of direct outsourcing, ensuring an adequate governance and control over the outsourcer, and also ensuring that the IPR created are transferred back to the customer. Similar issues may have to be addressed in case of indirect outsourcing. However, in such case, there may be the advantage from a customer perspective to be able to address any contractual right also against the supplier that is located in the same jurisdiction of the customer. And that, of course, provides an additional element of reliability. In any event, in all cases, what is required when there is an offshoring operation is a careful assessment of the prior track record of the partner, of the supplier within that jurisdiction. As for a joint venture structure, the obvious advantage would be a greater control from the customer in terms of governance, while at the same time this project might be a bit more cumbersome to be implemented in practice. At the same time, the supplier might be reluctant to give up control, and there may be some higher exit risks in case the project is terminated. The other option would be setting up a captive company. However, this from a customer perspective would be quite cumbersome, and it may entail a substantial risks and costs. So these are just few of the issues to be taken into account. In our next posts, we'll be assessing and analyzing the contractual elements to be taken into account when dealing with offshoring or outsourcing agreements with an offshoring element. Please let me know if you want to further discuss. Thank you.